You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH-LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for Harry for bringing us in. And actually, a personal thanks to a young lady by the name of Tiffany Renée Jackson. She's recently earned her PhD from the University of Connecticut, and believe it or not, she sits here in front of me. So her being sits in front of me, but her spirit kind of emanates wherever you might want to tune in and purchase some of her work on SoundCloud or a DVD. And that was you, believe it or not, singing. I mean, rumor has it. You can verify that?
I can verify that.
So tell me a little bit about that, what we just listened to.
Well, that was Heaven by Duke Ellington from one of his sacred concerts. And my final doctoral recital at UConn, I sang a recital of French melody and jazz, Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn. And this was one of the selections. Yes.
Well, folks often ask me what the Tom Ficklin Show is about, and from my standpoint, it's about class. It's also about caste, C-A-S-T-E. It's also about no class. It's also about all classes. It's also about class in the sense of lifelong learning, and it's also about class in terms of how do we define and stereotype and kind of categorize genres of life in high class, low class, no class. So hats off to you, Tiffany.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep my hat on for just a little while longer. I don't want. I just like it so much.
Looking sharp.
Looking sharp.
Yes.
And the thing is, when you think, Tiffany, of just even pictures, we've seen pictures as Easter kind of approaches. People will be stepping out, going to church, classy, dressed up. People will be going to church every week, dressed up every day, or whatever the case might be. And just our adornments and just the need to kind of be yourself and to live yourself and to sing yourself and to thrive as yourself. So Tiffany's here to kind of share with us what that joy of exhilaration and expression of your real self is, regardless of what talents you think you may have or don't have.
Yeah. Lack thereof, right?
And we don't want to bury them. Tiffany graduated from career high school.
The cooperative.
The cooperative high school.
Arts Humanities.
And spent some time throughout the world singing and being and dancing and exercising and fitting. So we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about here I don't even mean it facetiously, but the body, mind, spirit, and what that means as we manifest it in our personal life, in our family life, and just in our communal life. This past week you were somewhere, something for Stetson Library, something for Marian Anderson, something for Lifting Up. What was cooking there?
Yes, well, I was asked to judge a competition for NAM, National Association of Negro Musicians. And so I was a judge for that, and I was really excited to be a part of that because I enjoy listening to young, up-and-coming African-American singers. Because when I was at Yale University, I auditioned for the Leontine Price competition, and I won the local division, and then I won the regionals, and then I went to nationals, and that was one of the most exhilarating times of my life. So it was sort of a validation that, what I'm doing, it's working, it's resonating. This inner city girl can do this.
Cut out inner city, this classy girl. This happens. She was born somewhere, but we've been just kind of adopting and embracing the planet as our home, not just one location. Although it definitely in terms of the homage of our beginning and our origin story. But our origin story kind of expands and explodes like the Big Bang. But didn't you also participate in this fundraiser last week for the New Haven Symphony?
Oh, yeah, I sang in a concert to commemorate Marian Anderson, and I think it was called To Thee We Sing, and I was a part of an octet of African-American singers. No,
octet, that's a big, don't use these SAT. I know you got your doctorate. Okay, we know you earned your PhD, Dr. Tiffany Renée Jackson, but octet is like a gang of folks?
It's 8 singers.
8? Oh, I guess just 8. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. Duo we know.
Like
Duo, trio, but after that it might be kind of sketchy.
It
so
gets sketchy after that.
8 singers.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, then you might have to talk to Joel Martin about that because I think he calls himself jazzical. He wrote these 3 arrangements of spirituals for orchestra, octet, and soloist. And so we debuted those 3 pieces with the New Haven Symphony Orchestra.
Tremendous.
It was all Connecticut-based singers, African-American singers, here.
And what was the tie-in perhaps with the Stetson Library, New Haven Public Library and Stetson Library in particular?
You know, I'm not sure about that because I was asked to be a part of this project really at the last minute by a sister named Lisa Williamson, who went to Yale as a master's student, my alma mater. And she asked me, she said, Tiffany, the mezzo-soprano dropped out. So can you please do this? And I'm sorry, you won't be singing soprano. You'll be singing second alto. I said, well, if it's Marian Anderson, I'll sing third alto.
So I'll fill in the gap. I believe that some of the proceeds from this very important event are going to the Stetson Library, because the Stetson Library is going to be moving into the Q House when it's built in a few years. And in terms of their endowment and just the financial needs for related to that move and to the expansion of Stetson Library. So the New Haven Symphony was kind enough to kind of allow the Stetson Library and the New Haven Public Library to kind of co-present, so that some of the proceeds would go to this worthy organization. You've name dropped a particular university here in that 1701 that allowed you to grace them with your presence, but you've also graced up in Stores or somewhere.
Yes, I received my doctoral degree at the University of Connecticut, but my undergraduate degree was at the University of Michigan, where I studied with the first African-American tenor to sing at the Metropolitan Opera. His name is George Shirley.
George Shirley. All right, George. Hats off to you.
We love you, Mr. Shirley. Mr. Shirley is everything. When I went to U of M at 18 years old from New Haven to Ann Arbor, it was a completely different life for me. And so after that, then I was asked to come to Yale, where Doris Yard Cross recruited me for the program, for the opera program there. And then after that, I went to the Houston Grand Opera, wonderful training program for young opera singers. And after that, I just went off and sang around the world. I don't want to accelerate too much, but then I ended up coming back and doing a professional studies degree at Manhattan School of Music.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yes.
I know about got all those credentials.
Well, yeah.
Yes, it's a classy place.
I'm constantly
Harry, we're
seeking and learning and gathering information, and sometimes I have to do it that way.
Let's jump. We'll come back to University of Michigan and the Houston experience, and I might even try to drill down to your Church Street South experience, but
by all means.
But your journey is kind of not necessarily rebranding, but you're sharing now new parts of your journey. There's something cooking that you hope people might want to support or attend or know about.
Yes. Well, I am spearheading a new project called Gift, Passion, Purpose Project. And last year, after the death of my dad, unfortunately, my dad died in a horrible fire. But it's interesting because after that happened, I felt the wind at my back. And something just propelling me. I did a program at, I think it is called Trinity Catholic High School in Stanford, a Black History Month program. And I essentially wrote a one-woman show for this presentation. And when I left there, I just felt this desire to sort of do something a bit more comprehensive. And so it's called Gift, Passion, Purpose. My gifts are my spiritual endowment. Singing is my spiritual endowment. My passion, which I discovered later on in life, is health and fitness. Mind, body, and soul. And my purpose is what Muhammad Ali said, that service to others is the rent you pay for your room on this earth.
I thought he said something about sting like a butterfly or whatever. That was different.
He did the stinging too.
But
he has another legacy.
So what did he say?
He said, service to others.
Service to others
is the rent you pay for your room on this earth.
And if some of us want mega mansions, we got a lot to pay.
We have a lot to pay.
Boy. Harry, let's hear a little bit from the top. The first, what Heaven was it?
Yes, Heaven by Duke Ellington.
Heaven for folks that might be tuning in a little late, so that they can kind of catch up with us and listening to the Tom Ficklin Show. And the word heaven, it just kind of inspires me this morning. So we'll play like 30 seconds or so, or 40 seconds of it. Is that you playing those instruments?
I wish. This is Will Clary.
Will Clary, join us, Will.
Yes.
Have a seat. Will, good to see you. Thanks, Harry.
This is Will Clary on the saxophone.
And this is Will here?
No.
Oh.
That's Will Clary playing the saxophone.
Oh, who's this gentleman?
I have no idea.
Okay. All right. We learn we're all one planet. We're all one planet. That's you.
That's me.
Ah.
And Will Cleary is the music director at St. Paul St. James, and he also is a teacher at ECA.
Yes.
Been collaborating with him for so many years. He's a fantastic musician. And I'm hoping that with Gift, Passion, Purpose Project, which is a one-woman show, that I can get the band to help me to bring it all together. Part of what I want this project to do, Tom, is I want to be able to start a fund to provide scholarships to kids in underserved communities to be able to afford applied music lessons. Because I know that is lacking in the city of New Haven.
Yes.
These kids are so gifted and so talented. Many of them cannot afford a voice lesson. I mean, I'm a witness because I teach privately at my home. And when I tell them what I charge, which is pretty cheap for my credentials, a lot of times it's outside of what they are able to afford. And I started thinking, I said, I have to do something about this. Something needs to be done. So that's one of the things that I want to come out of this project. And as well, I would like to begin to sing a couple of recitals and performances for elderly communities.
Tremendous.
My mother lives in one of those communities, John Preet in West Haven. And it's just important for me. I just feel I'm not where I want to be in terms of resources, but I don't think you have to be to begin to think about how you're going to give back and how you can contribute. I love New Haven. I'm Miss New Haven. I could have gone elsewhere so many years ago and have kind of set up shop someplace else, but I'm always drawn back to New Haven for some reason. And so St. Paul, St.
Well, you knew
James,
we were here, Harry. You knew that this radio station was here. Paul Bass was here. I was here. Harry was here.
That's what
Mayor Hart was here.
That's it. That's it.
You want to sing her re-election in January?
I would love to do that.
Harry, let's just hear let's hear Tiffany by herself. So for the one woman, is there a title? Do you have a title for it?
Yes, it's Gift, Passion, Purpose Project. Yeah.
And how can we support it? Is it going to take place this summer, this fall, just depending on?
Yes. Well, people can go to giftpassionpurposeproject.com and they can, what I did is I launched a campaign where I've been releasing videos primarily on Facebook because I just wanted to do a grassroots rollout. I've been releasing videos every week demonstrating each particular phase. First, it was the introduction. Last week, I introduced my gift, and my mom did
your
a
many
testimony.
gifts. Your many gifts.
But the primary one is my ability to touch souls with my voice. And then this past weekend, I released Passion. And my trainer, Robert Fulton, Full Fit LLC, he did a testimonial to talk about how fitness has impacted my life as a professional.
Wait a minute. So how can people view or find or listen to some of this?
They can go to www.giftpassionpurposeproject.com and it's all there. I have all the videos there. Or they can also search on YouTube under Doc Tiffany Renée Jackson.
Doc Tiffany Renée Jackson.
Own it, claim it.
No, you're confusing me a little bit. We were talking about music, and now you're mentioning, the vocal cords certainly are an instrument and need to be exercised. But now you're talking about body exercise also. Now you're confusing me.
Now I'm confusing you.
You got to break it down. You got to break it down.
It's those three pillars, baby. It's that gift, that passion, and that purpose. Now, my passion is health and fitness. My passion is something I fuel every day. My passion is something that gives my gift distinction. My passion has helped me to overcome hardships. So I am a natural bodybuilder.
Cut it out.
And this year is my 10th year anniversary. And I'm actually training now. I'm all low carbed up and leaning out. Fitness is something that I find it has more spiritual implications than I ever thought it would. I thought it would just be a physical experience of looking better and that's it. But actually, I feel when I am on my bodybuilders program, it feels like a fast. Because it's self-deprivation. You are denying your body what it is asking you for. And
the body doesn't get mad at you?
It gets mad, but then it starts looking good.
All right. Now.
And then I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. So it's for me, I look at it as if without the sacrifice, that deep sacrifice, for me personally, I can't achieve the things that I've been put on this earth to achieve. And I needed to learn how to control my impulses. Food was one of them.
We all know. We all have.
We do
have these issues of self-control. And,
yes.
And be it lethargy and even I won't even. Sometimes, Tiffany, and you don't have to respond to this, but sometimes your passion can even become an addiction. But there's something called, in my mind, a healthy passion or healthy addiction. So you're now you talked about. Did you mention you're teaching somewhere? I mean, at home you do private lessons, but also somewhere else you're kind of sharing your gift.
Yes, I am an adjunct voice instructor at Choate Rosemary Hall in Wallingford, one of the most distinguished boarding schools in the world.
I'm glad you said that.
I wonder why.
I will share.
I said it because I know.
Oh, you only think.
And it's a fantastic
you don't know what I know.
place to work. And the kids absolutely respect and honor my perspectives on music and performance practice. And I've been given the opportunity to work with not only the singers in my private lessons, but I'm also working with the a cappella groups on campus. Okay? And teaching them that a cappella is a culture in which if you don't have rhythm, you're missing it. So I'm teaching these kids how to groove, no matter whether they're singing a slow or a fast song. I've also been asked to coach the musical this semester, which is Rent. They are performing Rent.
Okay, at the Paul Mellon Arts Center.
Yes, and it is going to be fantastic. It's some really amazing talent there, but I am challenging those kids in the way in which they've never been challenged before.
Let's unpack that a little bit. So you're encountering, correct me if I'm wrong, because we talked about this a little bit offline, that it's a false dichotomy between jazz and classical. So you're sharing these various perceptions with the young
I'm
people.
a genre bender. I grew up singing exclusively, well, when I started to study, opera dominated the first, I would say, half of my professional life at this point. But I grew up in the Black church experience in a Pentecostal storefront church where if you didn't move the folks with your voice, you weren't doing anything. And so that's always been in me. But when I started to study classical music, I kind of moved away a bit from indigenous musics. Something pulled me back in when I taught pop music and diversity at UConn for 3 years, from minstrelsy to MP3. And I was taken through this journey of American musical genres.
Yes.
And I said, oh my goodness, this is what I love this. This is giving me the kind of information I need to know for kids who are not necessarily opera singers, but may want better technique in singing pop music or singing jazz or singing, musical theater. So I'm teaching my kids now the difference between vocal technique and vocal mode.
Vocal mode.
Right?
It's a little too deep for me. Paraphrase vocal mode.
So vocal technique in classical singing is what ballet is to dance.
Okay.
You may dance hip hop, but you might want to go and get some pliés on before you get on, because that situates you. It gives you your basic tools and your technique.
Yes.
So technique is non-negotiable. Vocal modes are choices. And so, for instance, if you're singing musical theater, a lot of musical theater singers use what you call belt technique, which I don't use that terminology. Or if you're a jazz singer, you croon. Or if you are a blues singer like Bessie Smith, then you moan. Moan, right? You get your moan on. And if you're a rocker, you might do a rock scream.
I think I'm a moaner. A rock stream?
Yeah, which I'm not like,
all right.
but that's a vocal mode.
Okay.
Right? So based on the style of music, the way you sing it shifts, but your technical prowess should remain. So that's what I'm teaching.
A little heavy. I'm not sure I'm ready for your class yet, but I got to study up a little bit more. Harry, let's go listen to the Tom Ficklin Show and Tiffany Renée. Is it Renée with one of those kind of things over the
an accent aigu?
Oh, yeah. Show off. Go ahead. You earned it. What is it called?
Accent aigu.
I thought it was just an accent. No, it's what again? What's say it again?
Accent aigu.
Oh, I see.
It goes
okay.
from
for all of you that want
to
just a lesson with Tiffany on how to pronounce that'll be a good thing worth paying. Harry, let's go to the second tune and again, or mode or technique or whatever. It's just that the spiritual gift has many names, and just listening with your heart is kind of the thing that we want you to do. You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and that's Dr. Tiffany Renée Jackson. Tiffany wants me to believe that that was not Leontine Price or Grace Bunbury or Marian Anderson or who's the heavyset young lady? No.
Short. You're talking about Jessie.
Yeah, or Jessie Norman.
Tall woman, very tall.
But so you want me to believe that was not them? That you want me to believe that was you?
I want you to believe that.
That's not fake news.
Not at all.
That's real news.
We don't do fake news.
That's the real news.
And we also don't do alternative facts either.
Okay. So that's the real deal. You're sitting in front of me. That's what I just heard.
That's it.
Okay.
Because all those sisters you named are all my heroes.
See. So we'll get a chance to see that kind of illustration and commitment, and really just kind of paying homage to their journeys soon by supporting and learning about.
Well, in particular, what are you referring to?
Your upcoming project.
My upcoming project, passionpurposeproject.com, a one-woman show. It's going to exhibit my many gifts and talents. There's going to be storytelling. There's going to be video. There's going to be dramatic dance. It's going to be all encompassing. It's going to be a total art.
But and how have these ladies that we kind of referenced, and also I'm searching for the slender one. What's her? I can't think of her name at the moment. Kathleen Battle.
Kathleen Battle.
But how have they kind of impacted you?
Oh my goodness. The very first time I went to a classical concert was at Wolseley Hall. There were some lovely people in New Haven at the time who worked for Charlotte Bank. Okay? The Youngs.
Back in the day.
Joshua and Hollis Young.
Oh, yes.
I never forgot them.
Yes.
They took me to my first classical concert at Wolseley Hall, and this beautiful African-American woman comes floating out on stage in her red ball gown. Unapologetically, with her hair snatched back and her skin flawless. And I just couldn't believe. And I remember she sang a motet by Mozart, Exultate Jubilate.
Go ahead. Is that Ebonics? No. Say it again.
Exultate Jubilate.
Yeah, blah me blah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Woo. It's Latin.
Oh, is that Latin? Yeah. Go ahead.
And I was mesmerized by her. And do you know, it wasn't until years later when I realized that was my true inspiration for wanting to be an opera singer. I told myself something else. I told myself that I sang out of desperation. I don't know why I told myself that. I told myself I sang because I had to. It was my sort of way out of, a situation. It was sort of an escape from where I lived. And I told myself this elaborate sort of story, but I realized years later it was because I was inspired.
How old were you roughly when the Youngs took you?
I was 17.
17, okay.
And it was also the first time I had asparagus. Because they took me to dinner. I was like, what is this? So the Youngs were very influential in my life. Joshua Young would also buy my gowns. It makes me almost want to cry thinking about it. Sorry. He bought my gowns and my suits.
You listen to the Tom Ficklin Show, and again, Tiffany Renée Jackson is here, and the Renee has that kind of, what's it called again?
Accent aigu.
Yeah. The accent aigu, and she's earned and blood, sweat, and tears for earning her doctorate from the University of Connecticut recently. Has spent some time at University of Michigan, kind of earning degrees there. Also, spending time at Yale. She's now teaching privately. She also is teaching at Choate Rosemary Hall, and as a point of transparency, I had a chance to go there as a student and graduate in 1967 up in Wallingford, and was a trustee for a few years in the 90s. And these kind of journeys and touch points, and it's good to remember all of our journeys have pathos, but also joy. So kind of remember that where you may be today might be because of some of the good things, even the blessings. There might have been some scars, but those scars might have included blessings and learnings to kind of give you some inspiration for today. Tiffany, thank you so much for being here. We have about another 20 minutes. I won't ask you how old you are, but 20 years from now, what will be happening for you?
20 years from now, what
Or
would be
10.
happening? Or 10. Well, I'm not afraid to own my age. I'm 48 years old. I turned 48 March the 26th.
All right. Amen. And black don't crack.
And in 10 years, first of all, I want to provide, to be sure, my mom is 70 years old, and I want to provide a living for my mom where she doesn't have to live in public housing. That's number one. My mother will live in her own home because she did years ago, and that's my goal, is to make sure my mother is a queen. She is the reason why I am the person I am. So that's number one. Number two, I want to be in a position where I am able to put my dollars where my talk is. You know what I'm saying? I've had so many people to be gracious to me and kind to me, and the need is great. And so I want to be in a position where I can be philanthropic in 10 years. That's where I want to be.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Are you still competing from the fitness standpoint? Are you still?
I am. As a matter of fact, I'm training for a show now. I'm supposed to compete in 3 weeks, but I think I might tell my trainer to allow me another month or so, because there's so much going on now with the Gift, Passion, Purpose project. I'm having lots and lots of meetings and talks with people, and I feel that is a bit more pressing. So I'm going to be competing this season. Certainly in June. My trainer, Robert Fulton, has his own bodybuilding show that he produces at Hill House in June. So I'm always there, whether I'm singing the Star Spangled Banner or competing or passing out trophies. I'm always there supporting the show for people.
Too late for me to compete to enter?
No, you have about 3 months. You need about 3 months.
Yeah, can I see?
Of perfection.
I see.
A perfect diet.
I mean, a woman, bodybuilders in general, this is a unique, and you mentioned how it kind of is part of your mission, but how did that spirit strike you, or that motif strike you, or that tipping point kind of occur in your life?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I look back, and my brother was always muscular, and I was always climbing trees with my brother and wanting to do push-ups with my brother. My mother played softball and sliding on second base, so I grew up watching my immediate family members perform in sports. So I think somewhere deep within, I always had the desire to be this like body.
Yes.
But the tipping point happened in 2009, 10 years ago. I decided that something was missing in my life, and I wasn't sure what it was. So I just said, I'm just going to join the gym and get a trainer. And initially it was a young Italian man by the name of Joe Romano at LA Fitness. And I said, you're going to be my trainer.
Yes.
And he said, okay. And so I started to work with him. I did a half marathon within that year. And then I met Robert Fulton in November of 2009.
Okay. So you've been working with him.
And so when I met that brother, and I asked him, I said, do you think I can do that bodybuilding thing? You know, where ladies walk around in heels and all this stuff. And he said, well, I'm not going to say exactly what he said.
Yeah.
I'll paraphrase. He said, well, if you get that body right, then everybody is going to be envious of you, including your family. That's a clean version of it.
Yes, good.
And I said,
it's a classy show, so keep that in mind.
I couldn't believe it. I said, wow, okay. And I said, okay, I'll call you next week. And he said, why next week when you can do it? You can start tomorrow.
Oh, boy.
Why would you train next week when you can come in tomorrow? And I said, well, I get paid next week. He said, well, pay me next week. So I started the very next day. And when I tell you, Tom, that time period was really hard for me because I fought him. I fought him.
In spite of having the desire, there still was that lack of momentum kind of thing.
It was a fight. It was a struggle for many reasons. First of all, you get this man telling me what to do.
Yes.
I was raised by a woman. So I'm like, and so then I realized, like, you're paying him top dollar to tell you what to do. So you might want to listen. You might want to adhere. And as soon as I started to sort of relent to what he was saying and trust his information, I started to see my body shift into something where I was constantly having to look in the mirror and take selfies. I think I took the first selfie ever because I've been taking selfies since 2009. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
For your show, will you have a long dress, short dress? Give us a sneak peek at some of the costume. When you mentioned storytelling,
yes,
and other things, will you have a bodybuilding segment at all?
I will have a bodybuilding segment. I will have a segment where, when I talk about passion, when I come to that particular pillar, I will talk about bodybuilding, but I also will tie bodybuilding into general health. That building your body doesn't mean competitive sport, right? Being a bodybuilder, in its basic terms, as far as I'm concerned, just means understanding that your body is your temple.
Indeed.
And so what you put in it is indicative of what we see.
So it's a body, mind, spirit building.
It's a body, mind, spirit building. And because that's what the struggle was. He wasn't only struggling with me with regards to food addiction, because there are lots of spiritual implications to food and how food affects our mind and our hormones and all of that. I was dealing with, it felt like an exorcism.
All right.
That lasted for about a year.
All right.
Because I felt like I was struggling not only with food, but how I associated with food. Food was friendship. Food is family. Food is church. Food is where we going to eat. Every weekend, where we going to eat, y'all? What we going to eat? It was always built around that. When I gave up eating as a chore, my friendships changed.
What does that mean?
It means basically I didn't have, well, first it made it difficult for me to carve out the time.
Okay.
Also, I had to always explain to people why I was ordering what I was ordering.
Okay.
And I had to explain to them what I have in my snap bowl.
So folks thought you had left the church.
Exactly.
Or that particular ideology.
Right. Tiffany is off. Call us when you can eat. Literally. And I still love my friends, and they still know how I get down, and still they know they can't bother me because I'm not eating.
I don't mean to laugh, but and just when you were talking, you reminded me a little bit about our last time we were on the air. So I want to jump to, say something to the sisters.
About the sisters.
To them.
To them.
With them.
With them.
By them.
By them.
As a part of them.
Wow. Well, first of all, I love being a Black woman. I mean, I walk in that. And I would say to my sisters to find your authenticity and to understand that being authentic doesn't mean telling it like it is only. That's one aspect of it, expressing your mind. But authenticity is often about being honest to oneself about where you are in your life. It's about being able to say to oneself, okay, I'm not happy about my weight, or I'm not happy about a particular relationship, or I'm not, and really say to yourself, I need to do something about it. So it's self-empowerment, but it's also being sure to tell yourself the absolute truth about what's really happening in your life. Because, you know, years ago, I went on a 7-day vocal hiatus. I didn't say a word for 7 days. And during that time period, I learned so much about myself that I did not know. And one thing in particular, I asked the Spirit of God, why do I keep attracting users? People who just take. And I felt the Spirit of God say to me, it's because that's what you want. And I said, well, no. And I couldn't talk. So I
argued with God.
I was screaming spiritually, though. Like,
no.
That's not what I want. What do you mean by this? And then the Spirit of God had to come back again and said, because you allow it. I said, holy smokes. And so that tied it into, I've been telling myself a lie to feel better about what I was allowing.
Yes. So you're sure. So you think sisters do this, can tend to fall into that trap?
I believe we do that a lot.
A lot. Okay.
Because we are caretakers by nature, and we're mothers, we're gatherers. So we tend to spend more time doing that than building up ourselves.
Harry, let's tease us a little bit with the last word. We're going to close out in about 10 minutes with more of an extended version, but give us a little tidbit for the last song. I just want to kind of hear that a little bit.
Yeah, some history I'll share with you.
All right.
After.
Okay, Harry. When was that recorded, roughly?
Oh my goodness.
4 years ago, 2 years ago?
Oh no. This is at a festival called the Schleswig-Holstein Festival in Germany, in Deutschland.
Showing off again.
With Christoph Eschenbach.
Can you talk Dixwell? Where was it again?
It was in
Beerland.
It was in Deutschland.
Beer,
in German.
Beer and sausage.
In Germany.
Mercedes. If you said Mercedes, BMW, we'd understand what you're saying.
Everybody would understand.
But there's something else in the German.
Volkswagen.
Yeah, that too.
This is Christoph Eschenbach on the piano, one of the most world-renowned conductors and maestros and pianists. And I met him at the Houston Grand Opera Studio in 1999, and he wanted to hear me sing. He said, I want to do a private audition with Tiffany, and he invited me. My debut in Germany was with this man, okay? And I was in my early 20s, I believe, at the time, and I introduced him to the music of African Americans like Leslie Adams, because he said, do you know these songs, or do you know the Gypsy songs by Dvorak? I said, I do know. I said, but Maestro, do you know Leslie Adams? And he said, no, I don't know. I said, well, I have to introduce you to some songs. You're going to love them. So this is Creole Girl by Leslie Adams, an African-American composer, from a set of songs called Night Songs. And this is the final selection. This recording is actually the encore. I had to sing it twice. This was the last song on the program, and I had to repeat it, and this is the repeat of it.
They couldn't have called it Gumbo Girl.
No Gumbo Girl.
No Gumbo.
Creole Girl.
Creole. So 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
23.
23. And the first song we heard as the show opened, how long ago was that?
The first song was Heaven.
Yeah.
This was probably a year ago at my doctoral recital.
Okay. Do you hear differences in your voice is where I'm going to?
I do.
Yeah, I do as well.
Don't you?
I do. And I can't decide whether like the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old, the 40-year-old, I like all the different, what I hear, I still like all.
You know what? I'll tell you.
I'm not sure that explains, but.
I'll tell you, I like the audacity of the 20-something-year-old girl because she was bold and audacious. She did not have the solid technique, but she had a lot of guts. And I was uninhibited back then. And that's what I hear in Creole Girl. The girl who is now in her 40s has breath control. There's more of a consistency in sound. There's more evenness of sound. To me, it's a bit more tame, but in a beautiful way, which allows me to bend genres, as a matter of fact. Because once you have the control of your breath and how you're breathing properly, then you can apply that breath technique to many different styles of music. During the era of the Eschenbach concert, this was my sound. This was the only sound. It was a great sound, and it impressed him, but it was the only sound that I could make. And that's what I hear. But I wish I had the 24-year-old vocal folks too, the youth, because the voice shifts.
Okay.
A woman's voice shifts, and I'll be 50 in 2 years, and hormones shift, your range shifts, everything shifts. You get, sometimes your registration or your vocal register lowers a bit by maybe a third or a fifth. And I feel to some extent that's happened to me, but it's interesting because with this new technique, I can sing anything, but I have to have the technique. I can't just be bold anymore.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and Tiffany Renée Jackson is with us, and who's recently earned her doctoral degree from University of Connecticut, and she's been in a variety of institutions and elite institutions, humdrum institutions, the Hill South Institution of Learning. You graduated from the Hill South Institution of Learning.
I graduated from St. Peter's Parochial School, which is defunct now, and then I went to the Cooperative Arts and Humanities.
But tell me about the Hill South Institution of Learning.
Hill South Institution of Learning, I have not attended.
Well, I mean, you lived in that area.
You're talking about Church Street.
I'm sorry, Church Street South.
The jungle.
The Church Street South in the Hill, yes.
They called it the jungle.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Oh.
The jungle.
The jungle.
The jungle.
The jungle. The jungle.
So you graduated from there also.
Yes, I have a PhD in Hood. I am a Hood certified.
See?
I grew up in Church Street South, and when we moved there in 1977, it was an absolutely beautiful place to live. absolutely beautiful. There was tennis courts, basketball courts, and there was a nursery school on the grounds there. We had our own management company. I think it was privately owned then. So I don't think you can really classify it as sort of projects back then.
Good point.
As well, we had a store on the grounds. We had a laundromat. We had fountains. I mean, you really didn't have to go outside of your community. Right across the street, there was Lee High School. And then a couple of blocks up, there was Roberto Clemente.
Yes.
Oddly enough, my mother always bussed me outside of the community to go to school. I don't know. She must have known something I didn't. But Church Street South, what does it represent to me? Of course, in the 80s, it took a tumble downward because of the crack cocaine epidemic. And many people were affected by the drug. I saw people lose their lives over this drug. And I have some resentment that back then that people who had problems with drugs were criminalized and that the drug itself was criminalized. And so the people didn't get the help that they needed.
The disease. It was a disease.
It was a disease. And it wasn't treated as such when it was happening in Church Street South. But I can tell you that it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life growing up in that community because it was a diverse community. People don't understand this. There were Jamaicans, there were Haitians, there were Puerto Ricans, there were Dominicans, there were white families and black families. It was very diverse. I would hear merengue to the left and I would hear reggae to the right. So I grew up in a very rich culture. But recently it was demolished. The entire I mean, many of my friends privately, we have been sort of kind of mourning, you know, to the fact that, you know, we can't go to our old neighborhood and see it. There was a certain aspect of my thinking, which is like, tear down the bricks, tear the bricks down and rebuild it, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful thought as well. But it was our home. It also caused me a lot of pain because I went to a lot of funerals. Of 15 and 16-year-olds due to gun violence. When people also ignored another epidemic in my community.
There you go.
But thank God for Bessie Mae Jackson.
Yes, and that's your mother.
That's my mother.
Amen to that. We're going to have about 90 seconds or so. And again, you're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and Tiffany Renée Jackson has been with us and sharing and being herself. We're going to close with what Creole,
we can close with Creole Girl.
With Creole
that would
Girl.
be fantastic.
Close with Creole Girl, and for people to learn about your project, which is named,
it is named giftpassionpurposeproject.com, but also they can go to necessarydiva.com.
Necessary Diva.
Yes,
it's like a prerequisite.
It's kind of like we're all divas, but are we necessary?
Needed to the utmost. Is that what we're saying?
That needed to the utmost
on the A1 list, priority list.
Exactly.
AAA.
Gotta be needed.
And you're that person.
I'm that person.
Amen.
You have to be needed.
Amen. And for the show, we're God willing, in terms of this, does the Spirit tell you the fall when will you have a chance to purchase tickets and attend your one-woman show?
Yes. Just stay tuned.
Year, stay tuned.
Go to the website. I will always be updating. The debut is going to happen at St. Paul, St. James. I know for sure because Reverend Dalton said that he would be happy to allow the church to, debut the first performance. It will be in September. We just don't have a solid date.
Okay, in September.
But those updates will be on the website.
So Harlan's over there.
Yes.
Okay, Reverend Dalton.
My brother.
Harlan.
I love him.
All right.
Harlan Dalton.
Let's hear from Tiffany Renée Jackson. Thank you everyone for listening.